Welcome to today's explainer. Okay, I want you to settle in and listen really closely to this one because today we're looking at a very short but honestly incredibly powerful fable. It's called The Boy and the Candle, and we'll be exploring exactly why sharing kindness actually increases its value. It's a story that asks us to look at how we measure what we have and, what happens when we choose to give it away. So picture this one stormy night, the electricity goes out, and suddenly everything goes pitch dark. In the middle of this total blackout is a small boy, and he's just trying to find his way home. This sudden enveloping darkness, it's our perfect metaphor for hardship. Those moments of profound uncertainty where we feel entirely lost, completely alone, and just surrounded by the unknown.
All right, let's dive into section 1, A Light in the Dark.
Now, the boy's journey doesn't just end in the dark, right? He's walking in the darkness, but then he takes action, lighting a pocket candle. And that one little action sparks a massive chain reaction. Soon, other travelers start joining him, and ultimately, it leads to the entire group reaching the village safely. It's a beautiful flow that captures how one single, seemingly tiny action can set off an absolute transformation. Let's zoom right in on that pivotal moment. The text actually says, "A frightened boy lit a tiny candle he had in his pocket." Notice that he doesn't do this to be some kind of hero. He does it out of pure fear. He's just a scared kid looking for a tiny bit of comfort. But that little candle, it represents this initial spark of hope in a really tough situation. It's fragile, sure, but when you're in total darkness, a tiny flame is literally everything. Which brings us to section 2, the scarcity dilemma. Okay, so things escalate pretty quickly here. Other travelers spot that little light, and they're naturally drawn to it. They ask if they can walk beside him because, hey, they need that hope too. And before you know it, a whole crowd of people is following this single tiny candle. The tension here is so real. I mean, imagine being that little boy for a second. You light a candle just for yourself, and suddenly absolutely everyone is relying on you. It naturally triggers a very human, deeply ingrained worry. And that worry is exactly this. If I share my light, won't my candle burn out faster? It's such a scarcity-driven fear, isn't it? He's looking at this tiny stick of wax and doing the mental math. If more people use it, won't it eat up his own supply? Won't he just end up back in the dark? It's a totally logical fear based on the idea that everything we have is, well, finite. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of our story. On one side, we have the boy's worry, this traditional scarcity mindset, where sharing automatically means you burn out faster. A zero-sum game, right? But contrast that with the old man's reality on the right, where sharing actually means multiplying. Let's look at how we bridge that gap. Let's move into section 3, lighting another candle. So the crucial point comes from this smiling old man in the crowd who offers a complete paradigm shift. He tells the boy, a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. That single sentence completely shatters the boy's core assumption. The old man is basically explaining the actual mechanics of shared light. Giving your flame to someone else's unlit wick, it doesn't subtract from your flame at all. It literally costs you nothing. Your candle is going to burn exactly as bright and exactly as long as it was always going to. Once the boy actually gets this, everything changes. He shifts right away from that fear and lets go of the scarcity mindset. Then he shares the light. He lets others benefit from his spark. And finally, because of that choice, he guides everyone safely through the darkness. They all reach the village. The old man's wisdom totally resolves the dilemma, allowing this tiny, insignificant little flame become a literal beacon for the whole group. Okay, let's bring it all together in our final section, the value of sharing. This whole story brings us to a total redefinition of kindness. Kindness is a resource that grows when it is shared. And that is exactly why sharing kindness increases its value. Unlike money or food or, a physical piece of wax, kindness operates on this amazing non-zero-sum principle. When you share it, you're not dividing it up, you're multiplying it. You are actually creating more of it in the world, which inherently increases its total value for everyone involved, including yourself. The source material leaves us with this really beautiful takeaway. Helping others never makes you weaker, it makes the world brighter. The boy thought that giving would somehow deplete him. But instead, his initial tiny light not only physically brightened the path for the travelers, but it metaphorically brightened the world by showing the real power of shared humanity. His act of kindness, which was born out of a moment of sheer fear, became a profound strength for everyone. Which brings us to the end of today's explainer. But I want to leave you with one final question to really think about. Whose candle can you help light today? Look, we all face storms, right? We all experience the dark sometimes, but we also all have the capacity to carry a little light. I challenge you to step out of that scarcity mindset. Just remember that giving your warmth, your time, or your kindness, it absolutely does not diminish you. It just creates more light. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and until next time, keep sharing that light.